So if you need to change the pH of your pool, but you want to keep your alkalinity the same, you're going to use muriatic acid. This is the cheapest and best way to decrease your pH by a large amount by using a little bit of muriatic acid. Okay, so you're going to use the pool calculator to calculate how much muriatic acid you want to put in to the pool. Okay, so when you're doing chemistry and putting chemicals in, you always want to throw it into the deep end. Okay, you don't want to put it into the shallow end because you want a lot of water to mix with whatever chemical you're using. Okay, because if you throw it into the shallow end, the muriatic acid tends to column pour and sit in the bottom of the water, and this can start damaging your plaster or your vinyl after a while. Okay, so this is a very strong chemical to use, and you got to be very cautious when using it. Okay, if you ever accidentally spill some muriatic acid on your floor or your tiles, you want to take a hose and rinse it down really well. I actually had this spill in my car one time, and the best way to get rid of this is to neutralize it. So you want to take baking soda and sprinkle baking soda all over the spill, okay? Because otherwise it'll eat away at whatever it's on. And a good way to transport this is by putting it in like a bucket to transport it, something plastic, because it doesn't eat through that, okay? That's why they put it in these plastic bottles. So be very cautious when you're transporting this, because it does ventilate itself and it does tend to leak from the top here. So you always want to carry it up. And in the car, you got to keep it up in a bucket. You don't want it to flip over. Okay, so in order to put muriatic acid, you're gonna just pour however much you want to add to your pool. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little bit to show you guys. And you're gonna take a bucket and fill it up with water. You always want the water in there first, and then you want to add your acid to it, and stay kind of far away because there's a lot of fumes. And then you just want to rinse whatever you're using. Okay, and then you're gonna slowly go around and pour it in. And then I always like to mix it into the pool. So I do that about 3 times to help mix it. And then you want to brush it around. So the reason why you want to brush it around is because muriatic acid will tend to go to the bottom of the floor of your pool, and it'll stay there. Okay, and like I said, it's bad for your plaster. So you do want to brush your pool right after putting the muriatic acid in. You do want to have your pool running. Whenever I'm adding chemicals, I also throw in my robot because I want as much movement in the water as possible. Okay, so in order to reduce pH, like I said, pH only, to reduce pH only, you're going to use muriatic acid. Okay, if you have any types of running waterfalls, you're going to notice that your pH always tends to run high. So this is a very cheap way to reduce your pH, is by using muriatic acid. If you use sodium bisulfate, it'll reduce pH and alkalinity. Okay, and eventually, if you keep on using the sodium bisulfate, your alkalinity is going to get too low, and you're going to have to raise it. So it's better just to use the sodium bisulfate if you really need to in the beginning of the season, if your alkalinity is a little high, and then use the muriatic acid for the rest of the season. Okay, I like to keep my alkalinity at 80. Okay, so that makes, so your alkalinity basically tells you how high your pH will plateau at the end of the week. So as you get used to your pool chemistry, you'll notice that your pH tends to rise to a certain number, such as a 8.4, 8.3, but it always reaches that number and then it stops. It doesn't keep going. So it's plateauing at that number. Okay, so the less your alkalinity is, the less the plateau is. So you'll notice if your alkalinity is 92, okay, then your pH will rise and plateau at 8.4. okay? But if your alkalinity is at a 80, you'll notice your alkalinity, you'll notice your pH will plateau at like an 8, okay, which is better. So because that means you're going to use less pH reducer muriatic acid every week because your alkalinity is lower, okay? So all these different chemicals correlate with each other, and you kind of have to understand what chemical you're using and why. And you're going to have to learn the chemistry of your pool after you've kind of gained some experience and you've done your chemicals for a year. You're going to realize you don't need to buy every single chemical because your pool is going to change its pH a certain amount every week the same. The calcium usually stays around the same. CYA usually stays the same unless you're using, you know, tablets, or unless you're using a certain type of shock. So you have to be very cautious what you're putting into your pool and how the chemicals are going to affect your pool chemistry, so that you know kind of what the future is for the following week of your chemicals. Okay, I know it sounds complicated, but if you guys keep watching, I'm going to try to teach people how to take care of their pool. It took me just like a year to kind of figure everything out, but I do have, you know, biochemistry degree, so I do understand the chemicals. So hopefully I can help you guys figure out how to make sure your pool is crystal clear and shining every week, and hopefully spending less than $150 a year on chemicals. All right, like and subscribe.